go straight to Taiwan.
Okay.
Go right into Taiwan. So,
What is Taiwan?
what is Taiwan?
Taiwan. Wow.
I did not prepare basically anything for this, so if would you or you like to give a background on it?
Yeah, so we've already talked about this a little bit, but I'm writing my senior thesis on it, and Keegan is doing a debate.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
It's my debate case, yeah.
So
It's about Taiwan, yeah.
we are experts.
Oh, yes, definitely.
And then there's me.
I've done countless minutes of research on this
Yes, I
topic,
actually
and
have a PhD.
In Taiwan.
I
Yeah.
might as well have a PhD, I mean. You know.
Honorary
Yeah.
PhD.
Yeah.
But we are educated laymen, so
Yeah.
we have a little bit of information.
You may cite us in your essay.
I'm not gonna explain all of Taiwan's history since the 17th century, but essentially it's been, it was annexed by Japan in the 1800s, and then it was returned to China at the end of World War II. So 1945, 1949 was the communist takeover. So the nationalist forces retreated off the mainland to Taiwan, where they established a bit of a, rebel isn't the right word, but like a government. So
Different from
yes,
China.
both Taiwan and China say that they are like, it's called the One China policy. They're part of the same nation, sort of. This gets a little more convoluted on the Taiwanese side.
It does.
So what happened then was that the Taiwanese government, or the Republic of China, as it's officially called, sets up kind of this autonomous state democracy thing. Tensions between the U.S. and Taiwan and China are kind of messy, and over the course of a couple treaties and such, we make the trade-off of official relations with the People's Republic of China, or mainland China, in exchange for trade relations. We don't have an embassy in Taiwan. We work through the American Institute in
AIT,
Taiwan.
yeah.
But we provide them arms assistance, and we're obligated to defend them.
Yeah, under the Taiwanese Relation Act.
Yes,
Right? Yeah.
although that's not... Defend Taiwan is a very vague thing. We
Yeah.
could defend them militarily, we could defend them through sanctions, right? It's generally up to the person who's in office.
Yeah, and
Sorry,
essentially,
when was that treaty, the Taiwanese?
like 1984. So that was when, was that Mao? Was that when Mao was,
Mao, or maybe...
or one of the other leaders was in power,
Mao,
not
maybe
Xi
his
Jinping,
successor.
because Xi Jinping has been the most aggressive towards Taiwan, I feel like, and out of any of the other, communist dictators.
China has been not a friend to the United States, but it's been manageable.
Yeah.
Then in 2012, Xi Jinping took power, and in 2013 he released this thing called the Seven No's.
Yeah.
And it's essentially like no press freedoms, no democracy, no capitalism, right? Essentially, he took America, summed it up, and was like, we're
No.
gonna have none of that. No judicial independence, right?
No.
And he's like, we are going to reunite with Taiwan. Again, sort of like Russia and Ukraine, although don't make that comparison because there's a bunch of different things regarding Taiwan. It's much more diplomatically messy.
True.
But much like Russia and Ukraine, China claims it as core. It's a part of China. And the U.S., by treaty, doesn't support Taiwanese independence.
No, yeah. One China policy, like you're saying, yeah.
Yes, but we do support Taiwanese democracy.
Yeah, we support their democracy and we support their economic side. Like, we still have economic relations with them.
Absolutely.
And the tune of they're our 9th largest trading partner out of any other trading partner.
We trade something like 600. We trade a lot with them.
Yeah, 6 points.
I'm hoping
It's around $90 billion a year. I think it's recently been going down a little bit more and more and more. But it's around $90 billion of trade each year.
So let me ask this question: Why does the U.S. value Taiwanese democracy separate from Chinese?
So there's that is a loaded
half of my
question.
thesis.
Yes, it's a loaded question. We'll let you, Micah. answer.
Just break it down if you have to break it down into smaller questions.
So, I think the simplest way to put it as why does the U.S. value Taiwanese as a democracy and not Taiwan in general? I'd like to kind of address an informational side of things, right? A bit of a public relations thing. Taiwan is proof that there can be a free, democratic, economically prosperous, but thoroughly Chinese society. And so it functions to the United States as a, like, look what you could have. Communism is crippling you. They're as Chinese as you are, and it works, right?
Yeah.
You're not tied to this. You don't have to live like this. And so, as a democracy, it's important because it serves as kind of that, like, it's a story that sells, at least for the United States.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as far as relations go with us, getting more into the topic on relations, we have what's called the 6 assurances. Mm-hmm. So that is, I can't list them all off the top of my head, but we have the Taiwan Relation Act and then we have the 6 assurances along with it. And one of that is supporting them militarily no matter what. And militarily by means of arms trade and whatever.
Yes.
And China can't do anything about that. That's what the Taiwan Relation Act says. Because essentially why that was put into place is because China, when we got to the negotiating table with Taiwan, they were like, yeah, they weren't really clear. They were like, yeah, we might take Taiwan again. I mean, you're a part of us. And then America was like, whoa. Like, what's this? So we put that incentive in place for them not to take Taiwan, and that the fact that we were going to provide them arms. So, I mean, it's a difficult situation, definitely to analyze here. But we've been providing arms for them for decades. We've been trading with them for decades, providing them with arms, essentially arming up Taiwan just in case China might attack. And I feel like our diplomatic side does not reflect our trade side. So diplomatically, we say, well, this, and that. Like, one China policy. And then on the other side, the flip side of things, economically, we're like, you're a valuable trading partner. We're going to trade with you. And then at the same time, they get convoluted. And we're like, wait a minute, we can't invite them to this treaty. Wait a minute, we can't invite them into the IPEF or the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework or anything like that. Because we don't want to upset China in any sort of way. And I feel like the United States right now, this is how they call it. This is strategic ambiguity. And essentially, we're not telling our enemy, China, what we are doing with Taiwan. And strategic ambiguity is literally what is leading us into these military retaliations from China. I mean, you like not being firm in what we stand by. And I feel like we need to be firm, saying like, hey, we support them diplomatically. We support them as a democracy in this way, and we provide them with funding. They provide us with resources. We provide them with resources. In China, you can't say boo because they're valuable to every single partner in the Pacific framework and also around the world. They're a vital trading partner, and we can't just let you stomp this out continually. And I feel like this is now the time we should be taking more trade negotiations with them.
So do we need to end strategic ambiguity?
Yes, because strategic ambiguity, I could cite an article that I always read in my debate rounds. Essentially, this is from, I actually cannot remember it, but we'll put it down in the comments for you guys to look at our sources here. But essentially, this strategic ambiguity is what's leading to military aggression. And China is confused. The United States is confused. And in that confusion, they're acting in a certain way. So if we say we have a one China policy with China and Taiwan, but then we send our Speaker of the House, previous Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, over there to, it's just a signal. It's not a good signal, and it causes harm in that region because up until recently, we were saying that it was a one China policy. China was all right with that. But then we send our Speaker of the House over there, and then they're like, whoa, what's going on?
It's official diplomatic.
Yeah, it's diplomatic communication, and China obviously opposes any sort of diplomatic negotiation. They said this.
And
they
it's
said
a treaty that we made.
Right, it's a treaty. That's exactly what we have to do. We have to point them back and say, we made this treaty. Like, listen, this treaty is in place, and it's in place for a reason. And about moving topics a little bit more, since I don't want to get caught up on the whole economics part of it, but I also want to get into the military retaliation part of it too a little bit. So with Nancy Pelosi going in to Taiwan, her private jet that was going there was circled by by Chinese fighter jets, and essentially they were threatening our Speaker of the House for being there. And China responded in a horrible manner. They were like, this is absolutely outrageous. Like, we can't have this happen. Because obviously, like you said, they want to take Taiwan back for themselves.
The more China can isolate Taiwan
Yes.
from the United States and
The
from
better.
the rest of the world, the better.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why they oppose them being in any sort of framework or any sort of economic framework or anything like that. They want to isolate them, right? So this military strategy, though, we have to realize as the United States that China would be hurting themselves if they were even to do anything with Taiwan, because their technological infrastructure, I'm speaking of China, is very, very much dependent on Taiwan for their semiconductor chips.
There's a lot of trading with them.
Yes, there's a lot of trading there. And in fact, China takes in the majority of its semiconductor chips, pretty much the things that are in our phones, the things that are in our computers, what power our vehicles, everything like that. Really essential things. Taiwan has, and they have a really effective way of producing it.
Pretty much everyone takes in Taiwan's.
Exactly, right.
Chips,
Yeah. So China heavily relies on them, right? So if they were to put any sanction in place against them, against their democracy or anything like that, they would be effectively shooting themselves in the foot, because Taiwan is a extremely valuable trading partner to them as well. So we as the United States need to realize the leverage that we have over there, and to not be so flip-floppy on our foreign policy. Our foreign policy is here and it's there, but we can't be here and there at the same time. We need to meet in the middle and see what we can actually accomplish. And the strategic ambiguity right now obviously is not helping, hence the military retaliation.
So let me ask two questions.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago, I think there were 300 Marines stationed in Taiwan.
100 to 200, yeah.
100
US?
to 200. So
Yep, U.S. Marines.
U.S. Marines
I did not read
stationed there.
about
Yep.
What is your opinion on that? And then second, you mentioned a middle ground where we need to take a decisive stand on. What is that policy or
Right.
line of thought that you stand on?
I'll let Micah respond to the soldier question first, and then
I hadn't heard about this, but that's a huge deal.
yeah.
Because I heard comparisons being made to Vietnam, how we had stationed troops there, and then North Vietnam invaded. Do you see any similarities? Do you think
I don't
military
think
threat is imminent?
I do not think
from
China, especially given the Ukraine crisis and everything that's going on with Russia and Ukraine, I think that symbolized to them that whole idea of taking your own territory isn't going to work. And especially
everybody came behind.
Exactly, and would make them an enemy for everybody. Even though they are a extremely valuable economic partner, China, Taiwan is also a very valuable economic partner for the United States as well, and for many other nations. So for them, they said they want to be militarily ready to take Taiwan by 2045. So essentially, they're building up their military to be able to take over Taiwan.
Which symbolically is the centenary of the founding of... Or no, it's not. 2045? 2049.
Is it 2049? It might be 2049. I'm not sure.
Probably 2049, because that's the 100th anniversary of the founding of the PRC.
Yeah, that would... But the thing is, what we as the United States have to do is we have to make it so expensive,
Deterrence.
to deter China from even thinking about doing it. Because if they were to try to do it, then hey, look at all these countries that are now going to boycott your materials, that are no longer going to import from you.
The two ways to do that are economic, right? We could essentially do what you're saying, right? Boycott all the materials, or we could blow them up.
Yeah, I like if we did a combination of both.
We should do everything.
Yeah, that would be very great. Yeah,
I like this.
But the whole troop thing, that's entirely against what the current administration is reaching for. At least entirely against what they've already said they are reaching for. Because you speak of peace in the Pacific. You speak of not wanting to anger China, but at the same time we're having trade negotiations with Taiwan. We've been having trade negotiations with them. And then we're sending troops over there. So be clear with the American people and with China on what you're actually looking to do here. Because what does China see now that we have sent these troops to Taiwan? I mean, what are the troops there to do? They're there to train the Taiwanese military to be able to take on China. So obviously China isn't going to respond well to this, and they probably haven't responded well to this. And the White House needs to be clear. Like the government needs to be clear on what its intentions are, or else we're going to end up with another Vietnam where we don't even know what we're fighting for. And we have troops over there for no purpose, just to hold the ground, not to win, but to just stay in a state of despair.
And there are excellent reasons why we should protect Taiwan.
Oh, very, very excellent reasons, yeah.
I would argue, and this is my thesis, that it's worth defending.
Militarily?
Militarily.
Definitely,
So my biggest point of contention right now, going over and editing it, is whether we should end strategic ambiguity now or wait until China does something and then be like, it's over, right? Or try to do it in a time of relative stability. I don't know if we're going to have a time of relative stability, but I digress. Taiwan occupies what's known as the first island chain. So it's all the way from like, I think it's really all the way from like Alaska through Japan down into like Indonesia. But it was made, I think it was made in the 50s or something, or maybe the World War II. But it's a containment wall, right? It's a path of islands that you need to get past to enter the Pacific. And so Taiwan operates as like one of the key members in that chain, the rest of which is mostly a democracy. So China can't leave the first island chain without passing through Japanese or Indonesian waters or Philippine waters. And so it's a huge deal because they can't get to the rest of the world by sea. And so,
how does Taiwan control? Do they have a navy?
They do have a navy. It's not a particularly strong one.
Okay.
Taiwan's military in general.
I mean, you can only ask so much of 23
million.
Yeah, 23 million. But like, how big is the island? It's pretty small.
Yeah,
Sorry, but continue.
Yeah.
Taiwan's military can do some stuff.
Okay.
But it's not necessarily a match for China's.
Yeah, of course not.
Ideally, it can hold them off until the U.S. can get there.
Yeah.
But we should defend Taiwan. And so, I've digressed a lot. But the Biden administration does need to be clear on this, and I think they have done some good things regarding Taiwan. We've kind of one thing I didn't like that the Trump administration did was it alienated a lot of allies. In the name of like everybody needs to contribute their fair share to alliances. And so by doing that, we kind of pushed key allies in the region away. Something that the Biden administration has been working very hard to do is rebuild those networks. And I do appreciate that. However, they haven't there's some other stuff they could do. Like arms sales to Taiwan are a little messy. We're not trading the right things. A lot of I think their tanks are very old.
Just to chime in, we've given them $20 billion in arms sales, or at least conducted $20 billion of arms sales since 2017 with them. So we've been
compared to Ukraine.
Yeah. I mean, we've been arming them, to say the least. I mean, same with Ukraine, but we've been arming them, and it's for a reason. And I feel like this is an important discussion topic to have, because if we want safety and security in the Indo-Pacific at all, if we want security around the world, and if we want a valuable partner to check on China and to be able to see, because they're closest to China, right? They know what's going on. I mean, having a partner like that is really vital to our democracy and ensuring that, China stays in check.
And Taiwan is an American ally, although not necessarily in formal name.
Right.
And so having somebody close to China, other than Japan, right? Japan is the next step. But if China takes Taiwan, where do all the military forces that are pointed at Taiwan go, right? They go outward towards Japan, the Philippines, Hawaii, right?
Yeah.
And so having Taiwan there is kind of, it's the first line of defense. And so it's worth it to stop China before it's too late, right? Why should we wait when we can cut it here? And ideally we avoid war, right?
Yeah.
Deterrence is a wonderful strategy.
Yeah.
Making it so costly that they couldn't justify the ends.
Yeah.
But
So going larger than Taiwan, do you think it's important to stop the Chinese expansion overall? Do you think it's important to stop any type of imports from China to like with Russia? Everybody hates Russia. Russia's kind of falling. It's kind of destroying itself because it's such a terrible government, and the military hasn't been updated since World War II.
So is the question: should we allow China to rise?
Yes. Should we allow China to rise?
Yeah.
If not, what should we do? If so, what are the benefits of a rising China?
That's the problem. Is that since we have shaky, but we have trade negotiations with Taiwan, but since they're shaky, China is occupying a lot of Taiwan's exports.
Yeah.
So they are one of their main, contributors. They're their number one trading partner, and they're reliant on China for a lot of things. And Taiwan is relying on China, and China is relying on Taiwan. So there is a problem there, and I think the U.S. is able to combat China through trade policies. Through instigating a free trade agreement or something like that, to where we remove the tariffs that we have in place and we allow free trade to ensue between both nations. And I think if we are to do something like that, it will take a hit on China's economy. In fact, a statistic that I use a lot in my debate rounds talking about this specifically, a free trade agreement, is if we were to pass something like that, it'd be billions of dollars in economic benefit for the United States, around 6.3, and for Taiwan, it'd be $3.8 billion annually in economic benefit, along with increased trade in all sectors. But on top of that, it's $1 billion loss for China because we're trading more with Taiwan, so China is obviously going to lose some business. So we'd be harming them in that way, but strategically saying hey, this is who we're going to trade with, and this is who we're going to have alliances with. You can either get better at the industry, you can either increase your strength in the industry, or you can just trade
with you more.
Right. Yeah. It's a really vital incentive there. Make sure Taiwan is less reliant on China.
Okay, I think that was a pretty good discussion. We're out of time, but thank you for coming on the podcast. This has been my favorite podcast to record.
This is the coolest place to record it.
Yeah.
We will record here again. This is a great discussion.
That's a promise from the dictator for life.
Yes, as we all vote for him.
You're welcome. Make sure to tune into Tacenda whenever we record next, because we're very irregular with our posts. But they're always Thursday at 7 or 7:30 live.
Check it out. Definitely.
It's not pre-recorded.
Did you just wink?
Well, watch me double wink.
Wow.
I can wink with both eyes.
You are so skillful. Oh my goodness.
Alright, thank you all for watching.
Thank you guys. Take care. Peace.